So, welcome along to Sega Does episode 45. I am your host, Sam the Pixel Dude, and joining me from his nerd cave all the way in the United States, we have Dylan Cornelius. How we doing, Dylan?
Doing good. Wishing that it was just a touch cooler like last time, but
Yeah.
But in general, I mean, I have an air-conditioned house, so I'm grateful.
Wow.
I'm grateful. Yeah. How about you, buddy? You staying cool?
No. No, it's still hot. It's almost as if I'm in the same room and I never left. It's crazy.
Dadgum.
It's really hot, but I think it'd be a bit hotter if I was in my back cave.
Dun dun dun.
Because we're talking about Batman.
You know, it's kind of timely that we're talking about this because you know that terrible Flash movie came out, but Batman Michael Keaton is in there.
It is the real Batman, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah.
So
He's Batman.
well, he's real when he's not CG, right? Because he's definitely CG in most of that movie.
Oh, in most of that film, yeah. I mean, I haven't seen it yet. I mean, I don't really like the Flash dude. I have a few problems with him as a person. I'm amazed he still exists as a person that people are willing to employ, but that is another question for another day. But we're talking about some true movie greatness here. Kind of the genesis of the superhero renaissance. Like, oh, we can take these 1950s, 60s properties and modernize them. I wonder how this will end. We have Batman, based off the Tim Burton film from, now was it 87?
89. 89. Yeah.
89.
One of my favorite films ever.
I know.
Ever.
I know. If we ever got on one of those game shows where it would be like, name one of your friends' favourite films, I would say Batman for you straight away. We have discussed Batman a few times in a few various forms, and I know you love the Batman. So, give us some memories of Batman before we start this game, Dylan.
Oh, I just remember when Batman Returns came out, which is not a film a young child should see, but
no,
I was taken to it because... You know, it was PG-13, and my parents were there, so it was fine. But
yeah.
I love that film. I love Batman Returns. I still think it might... I don't know. The first two Tim Burton movies are just... They're both great in different ways. But my grandma made me a bat cape, and so I flew around a lot. Jumped off of couches and beds and such. But awesome. I just loved... Oh, and then the animated series came out that same year that Batman Returns came out.
That was great.
And so it was a great time to love that character.
It was.
I think the character's been overutilized in recent years. I think
for sure.
Between Nolan and Ben Affleck and now Robert Pattinson.
Wow. There has been a few, hasn't there?
Within 10 years, there's been
and Val Kilmer and George Clooney.
Yeah, at least those were like in in the 90s. Only in the 90s. That's all.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But, and I have takes on every single Batman. I'm sure you know. But today, this is a very unique game, actually, because Batman was developed by Sunsoft, who also developed the NES Batman,
which is very highly regarded.
It is, and for good reason. But as we stated in the previous episode, this is the case of a developer like essentially making 4 different versions of a game with the same character. All the NES, Game Boy, Genesis, and PC Engine versions are all very different. And the Genesis version, as you know, the Genesis, the arcade experience at home, is a very straightforward beat 'em up. There's really not much to it.
Very, very straightforward.
Yeah. Guys come on the screen, you beat them up, you're Batman. Occasionally you might fling a batarang at them. Great soundtrack, though. And
yes, I will admit.
Great visuals. Dark, but very moody.
Stylized.
Gothic, stylized. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was just a shame that the actual game part of it didn't live up. Because, like you said, it looks part, sounds part. It's even got some cool, like, I'm not going to say cutscenes, but stills that look pretty, well, very good, actually. It's very nice pixel art. You even get like a smashed up Joker at the end in the rubble, in the grounds, as you do at the end of the film. It's just not very playable, which is really odd considering how, I mean, remind me, because like I say, I'm not an NES connoisseur as such yourself, but the Sunsoft developed Batman for the NES is more of a like a Ninja Gaiden / almost Mega Man-ish. Like you can wall jump, there's lots of platforming, you can slide, you can do all kinds of different things controlling Batman, if I remember right. He's
very acrobatic in that one. This one, he's honestly probably how I would expect him to feel, like kind of weighty. And
do you want to know what I thought?
Yeah, please.
The least athletic Batman is the Ben Affleck Batman. This is the Ben Affleck Batman game. That is all I could think of when I was playing this was, this is the Ben Affleck game. Because he just like walks and does a punch every now and then and takes a few and goes, and that's about it. You know, he doesn't have the quips and the gadgets and a little bit of style like Keaton. You know, he doesn't have the like just all that like action man stuff like Bale does. He literally just walks forward and takes it, and that's kind of like I felt about Affleck. If I'm honest.
Yeah, that's true. Ben Affleck was a very great world weary Bruce Wayne, but he's not.
Oh yeah,
his Batman was not my favorite. But
probably the best Bruce Wayne.
Bruce Wayne nailed it.
Yeah, good. Replies? That's not. I'm reading it wrong. Comments on Batman, Sunsoft's Batman for Genesis. We have Fiery Rain, still fun to run through once in a while. Much better than the goofy PC Engine game. I've never played that. Have you played?
Me neither. No.
Maybe one day. We are not doing a PC Engine version of this website. Definitively the best Batman game on the Jenny. Oh, don't call it that. I don't like the British abbreviations of things, even though I live here. Why are you calling it a Jenny? Because it's called the Mega Drive here. It doesn't even make sense geographically. Fiery Rain, sort it out. If you think these shooter stages are long, it does have some shooter stages on it, actually. Wait till you get to the adventures of Batman and Robin. Oh no.
I'm very excited. Well, I was very excited about that game, but I've heard that it is just beyond hard. Like,
yes.
Like really, really tough. And
a graphical tour de force, but hard as balls, as you said previous. What else we got here? We've got some Taylor. Let's try and summarise Taylor's comment here. This was another favourite of mine growing up. See, these are the stories. I like these stories. Segadoes.com. Go and comment on these stories. I like to hear, like, back in the day, I had this. I like those kind of things.
Exactly.
And I used to play it all the time. I loved that it mixed up things every so often with the vehicle levels. Yep. And to a kid that had no real sense of time, I wish I had no sense of time now, it never occurred to me that the game came out so long after the movie. Yeah, it was a little bit, I mean, not as bad as some things that we've seen, but there was a little bit of time in between this and the movie.
Yeah, a couple of years. And I actually commented on that in the or I'm sorry, I wrote about that in the review where
right.
The reason why it took so long is because Nintendo had that exclusivity thing.
Oh, interesting.
Exclusivity clause for a long time, and then I don't quote me on this. My gaming historian badge is going to get taken away, but is something to the effect of, I think somebody won a lawsuit against Nintendo saying that was illegal, the exclusivity thing, because it was very monopolistic, I suppose. And what they were trying to do is like, oh, you can't put your game on any other system for 6 months or 9. It was a long time. It was like, even back then, it was a while. And so, anyway, but that got struck down, and then they could release Batman. But it was a good 2 years after the film came out. So, but what I like about Taylor's comment is, he says, it's also funny that you mentioned people importing this one, because that's exactly what my dad did back in the day. He was really big into Sega stuff back then, and even sawed off the sides of the Mega Drive cartridge to get it to fit in a Genesis. Since I guess he couldn't find a converter or didn't know those existed. He also put electrical tape on the sides so they would look a little nicer. And so for years I thought Japanese games had weird, soft, vinyl-y sides.
That is exactly the kind of wonder being a kid is all about.
That's right.
That is perfect. Well done, Taylor.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. I didn't actually mention many greys last time because I was, I don't know, I was just enjoying myself. You gave this one a C+, which I would kind of, I don't know. I mean,
B-, C+. It's in that range of like, it's better. It's slightly better than average, but only because of the visual. Only because of the detail.
Yeah, it is detailed. I mean, it's very accurate to the film as well.
Yeah.
It's a pretty game. I mean, they took their time with it. I mean, they must have had a lot of time in between not being able to release it to like refine it, I suppose. So
right.
Maybe there's a bit of that going on. Right. This is going to be interesting.
This one's all you, buddy. You know why? Because I didn't actually review this. I farmed it out to a buddy of mine, Peter Scarrett, who has been writing about games for a long time, but he is a big retro sports enthusiast. So I let him review it, and while I read his review, I have not actually. You know what? That's a lie. I played Cyberball on the NES, and I don't remember liking it. Much.
NES, right?
But I have not played it on the Genesis. So, what did you think of Robot Football?
Robot Football, otherwise known as Cyberball for the Genesis. Now, I don't think Dylan knows this about me, but I'm actually I'm not going to say good, but I think, let's have a think. I play Madden probably 4 or 5 times a week with my buddy.
I did not know that.
Yes. I like Madden. I've brought Madden every year for about 10 years, day one, and it's kind of like the one game I buy every year. This is a very good football game.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I really like this. Now, admittedly, being from the UK, and until about 10 years ago, I never really played NFL. Well, I'm going to keep calling them NFL games, because that's kind of like what it's known as nowadays, but a football game, because obviously they weren't allowed to use the license. We didn't get them, for one, because there was no interest here, and we really only started getting them. I think we got it'll be very interesting when we get there, because I think we got a few tail end like Madden Genesis stuff, very little PlayStation stuff, and it was really only right when PS2 started coming around that they kind of started like taking hold a little bit. But I think they were just making so much money out of Madden back in the early 2000s. They released it anyway because you've got to have some frills. And so Cyberball, it is. What's interesting and I like about it is I can't honestly remember much, but the first thing that struck me was the fact that you are looking down the field, as in north to south rather than east to west. Now, a lot of football games, as in like Tecmo Bowl and things like that, have been left to right previous. This isn't. This is traditionally how it's done now, which is up and down the field, which is obviously better because you can see where your players are running and stuff like that. The ball is a bomb.
Yes.
Which is cool. And if you don't get it in 4 downs, it goes bang. Which is pretty cool. And it gives you a big warning going, warning, critical ball. And it's really, really cool. But it really is just kind of like a very good 16-bit football game. And it's such a shame. I mean, I'm going to have to dive into this a little bit more because I'm sure there's going to be a shed load of football games coming up soon. And forevermore until Sega's demise. I'm going to be very interested to see if like EA acquired some of these people, or even the studio or the engine or sort of stuff, because it is, for me personally, I thought it was very good.
Yeah, he gave it a really good score. I think he gave it like a B or a B plus. Let me see here. A B.
Yeah, B.
Yeah. And I know there were arcade sports games before this, but this one seemed to be one of the first that executed it well. Like, executed the arcade sports blend really well. Like, you didn't have to be a football fan.
It does have an NFL Blitz feel. Obviously,
right.
There wasn't that reference back then.
Right.
But it does have that sort of like shotgun feel. I mean, one of the limitations in Blitz is you've only got like 3 or 4 plays you can pick from. Back in the day, there was only 3 or 4 plays you could pick from because that's all that could fit on a freaking cartridge.
Right.
So it's kind of like pushed down that way because, you know, it's a Genesis football game. According to Sean697, it is the first Genesis football game. Now, obviously, there's been a little bit of a delay between the recordings of these new episodes and the last, so I will believe him because, like I said before, I don't recall there being a Genesis football game so far. So I was obviously correct in my thinking. I wasn't the biggest fan of the arcade game, probably because it was a quarter muncher to learn how to play. Yeah, I can't imagine playing like sports games in the arcade. I mean, the only one I could ever imagine playing would be like NBA Jam.
NBA Jam, yeah. NFL Blitz was pretty big too in the arcade. I remember
there was a Blitz machine here and there in the UK.
Yeah,
it was an interesting time. Dylan,
what?
Wow, we've got a I can't even believe it. We've got a girl commenting.
Oh, yeah, Lauren Glenn. Yeah, and she. Okay, it's great. I'm glad you mentioned her because she gives some solid information that I was going to also bring up before we ended this.
Okay, take it away, my friend.
Segment, which is that this game was compatible with the Sega Mega Modem in Japan, and so I think, though I'm not sure, but Cyberball might be the first online sports game ever.
In 1990.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, and she goes on to say, if you had a Mega Drive from Japan and the Gen 1 Genesis, you could use the modem on it to play with a friend over the phone line. The best was that in between quarters, or when you're on the play select screen, it could switch to talk to the other player via the speakerphone on the modem. And they were going to release the modem here in the States, and they advertised it. It was called the Telegenesis, but it never came out. And Cyberball was featured in the advertising. So this was going to be, if they had done that, now I don't think it would have taken off. really, because there was some mid-90s attempts like the X-Band, and I think there was one other one that
late 90s,
Yeah, but I mean, even for the 16-bit consoles, like they were trying, and of course the Sega channel, was there, but this is I'm sure it played like garbage, but that's really impressive.
Just that they went, let's do this.
Right.
That's
Sega,
crazy.
man, the audacity. That's both Sega's like biggest strength and their downfall is their audacity to try things. At least it used to be. But
thank you, Lauren. That's brilliant. That is amazing. I'm quite shocked. I wish I could try it.
Somebody has to have emulated it, figured it out.
Well, the modem, yeah. You think that's probably one of the things that hasn't happened, unfortunately. One thing that didn't happen is that I didn't play this next game because I couldn't get it to work. So I'm going to be intrigued to see if I missed anything, and that is, Christ, Budokan, the martial spirit.
Budokan, the martial spirit. Yes, it is.
Wax on, turn off.
That's right.
I'm guessing that will be a no then.
So this game is super ambitious. It is a port of a computer game that didn't take into account the fact that on the computer you have a full-fledged keyboard, and on the Genesis you have 3 buttons and a D-pad. And
oh dear.
It is a very technical martial arts game. Inputting moves is very, it's not like this is pre-Street Fighter 2, right? It's very slow, but you still have to put in 3 or 4 inputs per move. But you can imagine doing that with a game as fast as Street Fighter 2 and all other subsequent fighting games, right? Like, you just do it real quick and it instantly registers. Here, because it's so slow, just everything takes forever. And, but that being said, there is a real visual charm this game has that is unfortunate. It's unfortunate. I like it when games just suck, just outright suck. When they have potential, it's very frustrating. And this game, you start off at a dojo. You're like a student, and you're training to in karate. You're training in kendo, and you're also training with a bow and a nunchuck. And within the dojo, it's kind of like the training. It's kind of like the tutorial area. Just kind of figure out the mechanics. But the main beef of the game is going to Budokan, which is like this.
It's
arena.
like Comic-Con.
It's this arena in Tokyo, very famous. And,
is it? Okay.
Yeah. And
I thought it was like Comic-Con, but for martial arts.
Oh, no. And you fight 12 people.
Ooh.
And I couldn't get past the first guy. I couldn't do it.
Dear.
You have to maintain stamina and ki. And the stamina is like... it's obviously stamina, but if your stamina is low, you can't attack with strong moves. Okay. So like you can, kind of punch, but you couldn't do like a more in-depth move. So if your stamina is low,
Yeah.
You can't do much. And your key, I'm trying to remember what your key even does. But
is it kind of like your morale sort of thing?
Okay, so having more key increases your strength, but the more you attack
less
and
key.
get hit, your key drains. So the key and stamina are very closely linked together, and I don't know,
almost
man. Like it's just
really.
too technical, and it doesn't sound like a computer game. Like it just sounds very simulation heavy.
Yeah,
and
it
this
looks.
was
looking at the screenshots, it looks. You do your training. It gives you damage readouts. You know, it's super technical. Like you said, it's a shame because it looks very pretty. Actually, one of the things that's like really overkill graphics wise that I did notice in a video or two that I watched was it has shadows of each character. So on top of that, I mean, I don't think they're dynamic. I don't think they could be. I mean, there might be a bit of clever technology going on there, but I don't think they are. So on top of having to animate like each sprite, which there are a lot of animations in sprites, they have to animate the shadow at like a 45-degree perspective, and that is impressive.
Yeah, the visual style, and I remember this to this day, it just made such an impression on me. When you're at the dojo, you hear the sounds of like trickling water in the background and like birds lightly chirping, and there's no music. And so it's very immersive. It does a really great job at kind of immersing you into this tranquil atmosphere that's remote and away from, you know, the loud Budokan arena. But it just doesn't work. It's just so hard. But what's funny also is you can only play this game if you have an early Model 1. So this was originally an unlicensed game because Electronic Arts figured out how to reverse engineer the Genesis back in the day. And so before they signed a contract with Sega, they made unlicensed games. This was one of them. And so later on, Sega would implement this thing called the trademark security system that they would put into like later Model 1 revisions, and then of course everything that came after that, Genesis 2 and 3. Yeah. And so you can only play it on an early Model 1 or on a ROM, but that might be why you couldn't play it, because it just
there we go.
Yeah.
That's
But again, not missing much, but you know, visually it's a feast. But yeah, it's so bad, and it's another notch on like all fighting games were terrible before Street Fighter 2. Like they just all were bad.
Yes, they were all bad. I agree. Adam King here. I believe this was Electronic Arts' grand entry into the Sega realm. This and Populous after being dragged kicking and screaming into the video game realm. Yeah, might be right there. Garrett here says EA, along with Accolade, weren't Sega licensees at first and learned how to program the Genesis using reverse engineering. This is what Dylan just said. While Accolade got sued and eventually settled with Sega, EA simply used the tactic to get more favourable terms. Good old EA.
Sounds like EA, yeah.
So it does. Taylor, it's a shame this game is trash because it looks absolutely beautiful. Again, it does. GH, I played Bakugan recently on EA Play. What? EA's PS... Oh, I'm sorry, no. I thought that was like their bloody online service. I was like, why is it on there? EA's PSP Mega Drive Collection.
I didn't know that existed.
Neither did I. EA had a PSP Mega Drive Collection. Wow. It seemed an odd game to put on the collection. Well, there can't be that many. Given its age and obscurity, there is no Populous Theme Park or Mutant League Hockey. What? Why does this collection even exist? That's crazy. Thank you, GH, for bringing that to our attention. That is interesting. Right then. Next is a game that the name carries a lot of cachet.
It does.
But not for this version. we have Super Monaco GP. Yeah, this is
this game is impossible.
This game is impossible. Now, I'm not going crazy. There is an arcade version of this game, isn't there?
I presume, but there is. Yeah.
Yes, there is. I'm assuming that one works.
Even if it doesn't work, you're probably enjoying yourself in the cabinet, right? It's like, oh boy, the cabinet's moving, and I feel like I'm driving really fast, and I only got 12th place, but it doesn't matter. That was fun. And
yes, it was.
It's not fun on the Genesis.
This is not fun. The only fun thing is the nice looking lady at the beginning and the cool art thing that happens when you get your points ranking, which I thought looked really cool. Apart from that, this game is hot trash, and I mean hot. I can't quite believe it. First started off, and I thought, actually, this doesn't feel too bad. And then I remembered, oh yeah, it's a 16-bit racing game, and it's not Mario Kart, so I'm not going to be able to judge anything that's coming up. There's no feel to the brakes, there's no feel to the acceleration. What this game does try to do, which I think was like its thing, is it wants you to use the manual gear selection, is what it really wants you to do.
That's absolutely right. Yep.
Yeah, and it gives you even two different ways of using it. Now there's 3 difficulty levels. There's the beginner, which is automatic. And usually in these games, it's like there's a difficulty of AI, and then then you can select automatic or manual. But in this game, there is 3 difficulty levels. Beginner, as I've just said, was automatic. Medium, or whatever the hell they called it, was like you've got a 4-speed gearbox. And then hard, I believe it was a 7-speed gearbox. So you have to change up the gears real quick. It doesn't work at all. It doesn't work as intended. The 16-bit racing games I usually find on a track. There are 10 corners. There are 9 corners where you don't have to slow down at all, and then there's one where you absolutely must, which is not like a real racing track. And usually you change all the way up into the highest gear, go around those nine corners, and then just kind of wing it for the one you don't. This game, it's not even like a button problem sort of thing. It's just because it's a sprite-based racing game. There's no feel. And it really tries to make it into something it's not. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. I rated this pretty high back in the day. And the reason why, and I remember this, is because
oh wow, okay.
I felt like I just wasn't getting it. But I think it's like you said, it's if you're not using the manual controls, that's what they want you to use.
Oh yeah, you can't win. You can't get past last place unless you're using manual controls. It just won't let you.
But I've used manual controls, and even racing games around this time, they weren't very intuitive at all. And especially when you're trying to slow down and take a corner, I could never get the hang of it. No. Now, this game is pretty divisive. In the comments section, there's some people just think it's trash, and others, like Sean, think it's just the best. I mean, again, for the time period, this is 1990. It's really ambitious. It's just like Budokan. It's very ambitious. It looks great. Initially, it feels good. Initially, you're like, okay, I could get down with this.
Yeah, same feeling here. Yep.
But the more you drive, and the more you're like, do I just suck at video games? Do I suck at life? Like, why is this so hard. And, you know, I reviewed this in 2017, I want to say, and or 2016. And so, you know, it's been a while, but I wouldn't rate it so highly now. I don't think I'd give it a bad score because I think it's too well made. In general,
it's got polish. Yeah,
it's got polish, but A-. I mean, and I think that's what's going to be fun. You know, most of my scores I still agree with, but it's going to be fun going back and looking at some of these that it's been a while since I've reviewed them and see if I change my mind. So could have been a contender, but it's just, I don't know, man. No, it's too much.
So let's have a quick scoop through these replies here. Brett Brown says, haha, I was pretty horrible at this game too. Fiery Rain says, game sucks to me too. They tried to make an arcade racer into some simulation nonsense. True. What else we got here? Sut says, I own but have only fleetingly played this game. I tend to have a go, decide I'll go back to it when I have more time to invest and think it will get better, but it doesn't, and I'll put it back on the shelf. This is another one of those games, Dylan, a bit like Columns, that ends up in nearly every single Sega collection ever.
Really?
Yeah,
I mean, I believe you. I just kind of blanked out. I don't remember
most Genesis collections, I will say.
Oh, okay.
All the various Genesis collections. Who else we got? Sean. Let's have to see if I can summarize. Can I summarize that? Let's have a go. Okay, man. Let me gather my thoughts. But this game was so good. There you go. I'll summarize it. That's what Sean said. If you want to read more of these comments and also leave your own comments, you've got to go to segadoes.com. As I said, new episodes are up now. Go back to the old episodes. You can look down the great master list that Dylan has created and find out whereabouts we are. We are catching up at the minute to where he is, but we will be caught up soon. So leave your comments. Also leave comments on podcast episodes to get those read out as well. So Dylan, last game today. Again, another one I couldn't play, which I think I'm going to be... I don't know if I'm going to be disappointed about or not. We have Shadow Blasters.
Shadow Blasters is a very rudimentary beat 'em up. However, I think it is elevated by just how cheesy it is.
Awesome. I got some Captain Planet vibes going on this. On this cover, dude.
Yeah, it's not. You're not saving the Earth. Well, you are actually, but not in an environmental sense. More of a two gods are duking it out kind of sense, and you've got to prevent the destruction of mankind. Yeah, you can play as 4 different characters. You actually have to. They're kind of like lives. It's kind of like the original Turtles on the NES.
Yep.
And different types of characters. You got your old sage. You got your, scantily clad female protagonist. You got your big beefy dude. Of course. And so you got your 4 heavy hitters, and they all have different powers and abilities. But basically, you walk left to right. You kill dudes, and what really just makes this game stand out is it seems to really lean into it knows it's cheesy, it knows it doesn't have the best quality graphics and style, but it just doesn't care. It's just like, nope, we are unapologetically this. And again, it feels like it might have been developed for the Master System initially and put on the Genesis, maybe
it looks like it,
right?
It does. You're very right there.
Yeah, but it works. I don't know. It works. It's not anyone's favorite game, I guarantee it. But
no,
it is absurd. And if you've explored all the Genesis has to offer, I'd say you should definitely play this. Oh, and it's co-op too. So,
well, there you go.
That's good.
It's one of those. I think I'm right in saying this. I'll look at it and go, "Oh, it's one of them," and it's just your standard Genesis. Bleh.
Yeah, it's before beat 'em ups were elevated with Final Fight and Streets of Rage. This was the last remains of the 8-bit style beat 'em ups is this. And yeah, it's just I don't know, man. It's just like renting a Steven Seagal movie from Blockbuster back in like 1998.
Yeah, you didn't know what you was going to get.
You didn't know what he was going to get, but you knew it was going to be cheesy, and like bad. So, yeah.
We're talking about bad. We're going to be talking about a bit more bad next time, but we'll leave that as a little bit of a clue for you guys at home. Right, let's just have a look at a few of these comments. We've got Mill here. Fun game, bit too short, so I'm assuming he beat it. We've got a comment here from the DJ Parish. Wow. He says, hey there, I never heard of this, but it seems cool. Yeah, running along the theme Dylan just said, if you've never heard of this, give it a go. Daytime Renegade said, this game had me at the cover art. Yeah, the cover art's pretty cool. The American cover art, bring on the cheese. Yeah, this is like, I think we're getting to the end of like super cheese box art.
We are, yeah.
Unfortunately. Wow. I'm just looking at this.
I know, it like in circles, it goes from bad to kind of good. Like
it changes as you look at it. It's
right, I know.
It's like on a magic eye. Like every time you like move your eyes around, you see another cheesy detail.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That guy works out. He's got great legs. Right. He don't skip leg day. So, next time, we are having a very special episode and we will be talking about an icon of the 80s and 90s. But until that time, Sega Dylan.
Sega!